Questions that remain, answers that redeem. A Christ-centered reflection series drawn from what I have written, what I have wrestled with, and what God has redeemed. I did not set out to write answers. I set out to be honest. What you are holding, reading, or listening to came from questions that would not leave me alone. Questions about fear, about darkness, about why evil seems loud, and why God sometimes feels quiet. Every story I wrote carried a mark of something I noticed, something I wrestled with, something I brought before the Lord whether I had the words for it or not. I noticed fear shows up often, but it never gets the final word. That is not accidental. Fear exists, but it does not rule me, and it does not rule this story, because Scripture makes it clear that fear was never meant to lead. God did not give us a spirit of fear, and I write from that truth, even when fear tries to speak anyway. I noticed darkness appears in the work, but it is always limited. Evil is real, but it is never equal to God. I did not want to pretend darkness does not exist, but I refused to glorify it. Everything I wrote points to the truth that darkness is allowed, not crowned. Children, innocence, and clarity keep surfacing because I believe we lose sight of truth when we complicate it. Jesus did not elevate innocence because it is fragile, he elevated it because it sees without distortion. I write toward that kind of seeing. There are moments of silence in these stories because silence has been part of my walk with God. Silence does not mean abandonment. Sometimes it is the place where faith grows roots instead of noise. Identity comes before confrontation. That is something I learned the hard way. Until I understood who I belonged to, everything else felt louder than it should have been. Scripture taught me that knowing Christ comes before facing anything else. And redemption always closes the door behind the story because redemption closed the door behind my fear. I cannot end with punishment when Scripture ends with promise. God loved the world enough to send His Son, and I believe that love deserves to be the final word. These writings are not meant to impress. They are meant to testify. I asked real questions. God answered them with truth. And what remains is not fear, but hope that has been redeemed.